The scholastic worldview is built on balance, connection, senses, turned into action through deliberation, motion from one stage to the next, an overlapping grid, 3 rows for the 3 powers of the soul, columns bringing each row to completion. Today we focus on the 7th stage of the human act, volition, turning conclusions into intentions. Close, but not quite. The concepts from stage 4, remember those? They are, technically speaking, the matter that is elevated into the will, elevated by something called the rational appetite, a process informed by logic's conclusions. Intentions. The lazy have too few. The obsessed have a disordered supply. We want balance, where the immaterial and the material touch, avoiding errors, like thinking bodily pleasures are the only real good, and that would mean that higher pleasures or pleasures of the mind are mere shadows, and therefore the simplest diversion, or the meanest, is of equal value with any art, science, music, or poetry. Personal pleasure is all that matters in this view, the only thing worth pursuing, and when we say that doesn't mean we're being swept away by emotion. This is a rational decision about what matters, a decision downward from human to animal. Our humanity, the argument goes, is not morally relevant, and the life of a human, therefore, is not necessarily more valuable than that of an animal. Ouch! Well, it would seem that man's happiness consists in pleasure, for since happiness is the last end, it is not desired for something else. Quick story here. You get a lot of money, great, you can buy something to make you happy. That makes sense. You get a lot of happiness, great, you can trade it for money. That doesn't make sense. So happiness is our last end, and it answers to, i.e. it is closest to, pleasure. Therefore, happiness consists principally in pleasure and delight. How are we gonna... Well, definitions to the rescue. Delight is the appetite's rest in a good, but not the final or the highest good. So those guys from before, they were right that bodily pleasures are real and are good and do matter, but bodily pleasure cannot result from the perfect good, since the rational soul excels the capacity of corporeal matter and even has a certain infinity, just as form, which is independent of matter, is, in a way, infinite. Infinity, by the way, not something that you can explain to an animal. The opposite error ignores pleasure altogether. Duty is necessary and is separate entirely from every inclination of the will. Quick aside here, you might recognize this guy. We met him in stage 1 and put him on the other side of the ledger. He is kind of famous for double dipping into epistemology and ethics. The point I'm trying to make is I don't want to cast any of these people either into the sky or under the earth. I'm just trying to talk about ideas here. Sorry, can't help myself. Back to duty, which limits the satisfactions we say have value and restricts a person's pleasures. And yeah, it would seem that the more perfect the moral virtue is, the more it overcomes the passions. Psych! Virtue only overcomes bad passions. It produces good passions. We do remake ourselves in the image of our choices. You really can learn to like broccoli. That's the good news, if a bad example. The bad news is you really can orient yourself towards harmful choices also and bad values, so don't do that, but you should give the final word to Aristotle, who warns us about the power pleasure can have if we let it. It can cause us to do base actions, and pain can cause us to abstain from doing noble actions.